She was just the janitor until a millionaire found her law textbook on a mop cart. What he discovered next shattered his heart and changed both their lives forever. By the end, he was in tears, and so was the entire room. It was nearly midnight in the towering glass building of Westwood Enterprises. The halls were empty, except for the soft hum of vacuuming and the faint shuffle of rubber soles against marble floors. Amara, dressed in a faded blue janitor's uniform, moved silently, her back aching, her hands raw from hours of scrubbing. No one ever looked at her. To them, she was just the cleaning girl, the one who kept the executive offices spotless, while they slept in their luxury condos. But tonight, something was different. As she wiped down the long mahogany conference table on the 43rd floor, she noticed a light still on at the far end. She stiffened. That office belonged to him, Alexander Rains, the elusive millionaire CEO, known for his brutal honesty and relentless business drive. He never worked this late. Before she could retreat, the door opened. He stepped out, tall and sharply dressed, his dark eyes scanning the hallway until they landed on her. "You shouldn't be here this late," he said, voice low but stern. I clean at night," Amara replied, ducking her head. He paused, then frowned, noticing something strange. Her shoes were worn through at the soles. Her nails were chipped. But it was her eyes that caught him, tired, but burning with something more. "You always clean this floor?" She hesitated. "Only when Mrs. Claudia's out sick." He raised a brow. "So you filled in? Voluntarily?" She nodded. That's when he noticed it. Peeking from her cleaning cart, an open law textbook. A highlighter stuck between pages about corporate mergers. "Wait, are you studying?" he asked. Stunned. She froze. Then slowly nodded again, and for the first time, the millionaire didn't see a janitor. He saw a story. Alexander Rains stood frozen, one hand in his pocket, the other gripping the frame of his office door. The law textbook now looked out of place on a cart, next to bleach and mop heads. "Why are you cleaning at night and studying corporate law?" he asked carefully. Amara swallowed. Her instincts told her to walk away, to apologize, to disappear, like she always did. But something in his tone, something rare, held her there. "I go to night classes," she murmured. "During the day, I work part-time at a library. I clean here at night to afford tuition." Alexander's brow furrowed. "And you want to be, what? A lawyer?" Her lips twitched into a tired smile. "A mergers and acquisitions attorney, actually. I want to specialize in helping small black-owned businesses protect themselves in contract negotiations." That answer floored him. Not fame, not money, not status. Purpose. He glanced at her again. She couldn't have been older than 22, maybe 23. And yet, here she was grinding in silence while his world operated in boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. "I've never seen you before," he said. "I don't want to be seen," she replied softly. "Just want to make it." Alexander didn't respond. Instead, he walked back into his office, opened a drawer, and returned with a business card. "My assistant. Call her tomorrow. Tell her I asked you to schedule a meeting with me, off the record." Amara stared at it, suspicious. "Why?" He gave a thin smile. "Because I want to know how someone scrubbing my floor knows more about corporate law than half my staff." She didn't take the card at first. But when she did, everything started to shift. 2 days later, Amara walked into Westwood's executive boardroom, not with a mop this time, but in a second-hand blazer and pressed slacks. Her hands were still calloused, but they didn't tremble. Not even when she stepped in and saw Alexander seated at the head of the table, flanked by 2 of his top advisors. The assistant looked confused. "Sir, is this the janitor you mentioned?" Alexander didn't flinch. "No, this is Amara Fields. She's our guest." Amara sat, spine straight. For years she had cleaned these rooms. Now she sat as an equal. "Almost. Tell me about your vision." Alexander said. So she did. She spoke of watching small black-owned shops in her neighborhood, close because of predatory clauses, buried lease agreements. Of her father, who lost his garage to a hidden lien buried in legalese. Of her dream to become a corporate attorney who could fight back. His advisors exchanged glances, half impressed, half patronizing. "That's ambitious," one said with a tight smile. But law school costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Have you applied to any? She nodded. 3. NYU, Columbia, and Howard. And the odds you get in, much less pay for it? Low, she admitted. But I'm applying anyway. Alexander didn't say much. He just listened. Then he stood. Thank you, Amara. That'll be all for now. She blinked, confused. That's it. For now, he said with a nod. As she left, one of the advisors leaned in and whispered, Are you really considering helping her? Alexander didn't answer. He just stared at the closed door and whispered to himself, She reminds me of someone I failed. That night, Alexander Raines sat in his penthouse, an untouched glass of whiskey in his hand and a folder in his lap. Inside it was Amara's application to Howard. Law he'd pulled it using quiet connections. Her essays were raw, passionate, unpolished, but honest. And they broke him. He remembered someone else who once dreamed that big. Someone who also scrubbed floors and studied by streetlight. His older sister Bianca. She never made it. Bianca had been brilliant, top of her high school, accepted into Georgetown Law, but no scholarships, no family wealth. Just a waitress job and hope. She'd worked herself into exhaustion, collapsed. One night after a double shift, trying to pay tuition and send money back home. By the time Alexander made his first million, she was gone. He'd buried that pain behind success. Buried it under boardrooms, acquisitions, and headlines. But Amara, she'd stirred it back up. The next morning, Alexander called his assistant. Find me everything on Amara Fields. Academic records, employment, everything. You thinking of sponsoring her? I'm thinking of investing, he said. In her? He nodded. In the future. And so quietly, he set a plan in motion. He pulled strings at Howard, wrote a personal letter to their dean, and authorized a blind grant under the Westwood Foundation's Community Impact Fund. No strings. No spotlight. She would never know it was from him. Until she did, and when that moment came, it would bring both of them to tears. Amara balanced a tray of coffee cups as she climbed the steps of her community library job. Her cleaning shifts had been reduced lately. Mrs. Claudia had returned from her leave, and though the extra hours of rest helped, they also meant less money. She counted every dollar now, budgeting like a surgeon. Rent, tuition deposits, books, metro fare. It was all a delicate dance. The letter arrived late in the afternoon. She almost missed it, sandwiched between junk mail and a coupon flyer. The envelope was thick, the paper high quality, the seal on the back gold and stamped with an emblem. Her breath caught when she saw the return address. Howard University, School of Law. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a typed letter, followed by a second stapled page. She scanned the first line and nearly dropped the paper. Greater than, Dear Ms. Amara Fields, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted to the Howard University School of Law, Fall 2025 cohort. She couldn't breathe. She blinked to make sure it wasn't a dream, but then her eyes fell to the next page, something even more shocking. Greater than, due to your outstanding potential and demonstrated perseverance, you have also been selected for a full tuition grant under the Westwood Foundation's Next Voices in Law Fellowship. Amara gasped. Westwood Foundation? Her mind flashed back to the tall man in the sharp suit. Alexander Raines. She'd never mentioned Howard during their meeting. She hadn't said anything about needing help. Hadn't even shown him her application materials. And yet, somehow this had his fingerprints all over it. Tears welled up in her eyes before she could stop them. She sat down in the library break room, clutching the letter to her chest like a lifeline. For a long time, she just sat in stunned silence. Then she whispered, Why me? At that exact moment, 43 floors above, Alexander stood by his office window, looking down at the city, his phone still in hand. I just got word she received the package, his assistant said. Did she call? Not yet. Good, Alexander replied quietly. She doesn't have to. I just wanted her to have a fair shot. His assistant hesitated, then added, Sir, the board will ask why you gave away a full ride grant to a janitor. Alexander smiled to himself, eyes still on the streets below. Because she won't be a janitor for long. Back in the library, Amara wiped her eyes, folded the letter, and slid it carefully into her worn bag. She stood up straighter than ever before. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like someone chasing the dream. She was the dream, and the game had just begun. Alexander stood at the edge of the conference hall, quietly watching the Howard Law orientation ceremony on the live stream. His name wasn't on the donor list. He hadn't even told his board what he'd done, but he saw her. Amara stood in a row of incoming students, wearing a neatly pressed blazer, her locks pinned back, her face glowing with pride. Her eyes scanned the crowd, looking for someone maybe. A mentor, a miracle worker, someone to thank, but she didn't know. And Alexander wanted it that way. He had arranged everything anonymously, through shell foundations, private connections, backdoor meetings. She would never owe him a thing. Still, he couldn't stop watching. "Sir," his assistant interrupted gently, holding a folder. "You asked me to get a status update on Amara's scholarship setup. The final payment's been transferred." Alexander took the folder without looking. "She's in," the assistant added. "And she's already signed up for the legal clinic that works with minority-owned startups." "That's exactly what she said in her presentation to you." He nodded. "She's not just dreaming," Alexander said. "She's already building." His mind flashed back to Bianca, her laughter, her late-night notes scribbled in old textbooks. She never got this chance. He took a deep breath and whispered to no one, "I couldn't save you, Bianca. But maybe I can save someone like you." He turned off the live stream. This wasn't about recognition. It was about redemption. And yet, fate had other plans, because Amara, curious, determined, and far smarter than anyone realized, wasn't going to let her miracle go unanswered. A week later, she sat in the Howard Library, digging through public donor databases, alumni records, grant endowments, and that's when she found it. A familiar name buried deep in the fine print of the Martin Lee Fellowship Fund. Westwood Enterprises. Her heart skipped. "Alexander Rains," she whispered, everything tilted. She had to see him. Spring air outside buzzed with the excitement of decision season, when law schools released their admissions results. Students across the country clutched their phones, stared at inboxes, prayed and panicked. Amara Fields was no different, except she was sweeping the stairwell at Westwood Tower when her phone vibrated in her pocket. She paused, broom in one hand, and pulled it out. Subject: Decision Notification, Howard University School of Law. Her heart thundered. For a second, she considered waiting until her shift ended. But some moments don't wait. She tapped the email and screamed. A nearby security guard rushed in, thinking something was wrong, but found Amara slumped against the wall, tears streaming down her cheeks, hand over her mouth. "I got in," she whispered. "I got in." But elation quickly gave way to dread. She'd been accepted, but the tuition was more than what she'd saved in 4 years of working nights, weekends, and sacrificing everything. She walked home under a buzzing streetlight, staring up at the stars, her heart split between joy and fear. That night, when she arrived at her tiny one-bedroom apartment, there was another envelope waiting on the floor. No return address. Cream-colored, heavy. Inside, a letter. "Dear Ms. Amara Fields, congratulations on your acceptance to Howard Law. We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as the inaugural recipient of the Westwood Future Leaders Full Ride Scholarship. This scholarship covers full tuition, housing, and living expenses for the duration of your legal education. You were chosen not only for your academic merit, but for your commitment to justice, equity, and leadership. There are no interviews required. No media obligations. We believe your story will write itself. On behalf of our anonymous selection board, we wish you the brightest future. Sincerely, the Westwood Foundation." Amara's breath caught in her throat. She clutched the paper like it might vanish. Her hands trembled so badly she nearly dropped it. Her mother, who had been battling illness in silence, looked up from the couch and said, "Baby, what is it?" "I got a scholarship." "A full one, to Howard. Everything's covered." Her mother gasped, arms trembling as she reached for her daughter. "Amara, God is so good." But Amara's eyes narrowed slightly. Westwood Foundation. That was the same name on the side of the building she cleaned every night. A seed of suspicion took root. Across the city, in a boardroom bathed in blue skyline light, Alexander Rains sat alone, watching the city stretch out below him. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. Asterisk's assistant entered. She got the scholarship. Asterisk, he nodded slowly. Good. Asterisk, she cried. According to the security guard, she dropped her broom and sank to the floor. Asterisk, Alexander. Swallowed hard. Asterisk, she never know it came from you? Asterisk, he looked out again, distant. That's not the point. She earned it. I just cleared the path. Asterisk, the assistant hesitated. You okay, sir? He didn't answer. He was thinking about his sister again, wondering if, had someone stepped in like this for Bianca, she might still be alive. The weeks that followed were a blur. Amara gave notice at Westwood and the library. Her co-workers celebrated her with hugs and tears. The janitorial supervisor, Claudia, whom Amara had filled in for that first night, wept openly. Asterisk, baby, I always knew there was something powerful in you. Asterisk, she sold her old textbooks, packed her few belongings, and used her savings to pay off her mother's lingering medical bills. She moved into the graduate student housing at Howard with nothing but a laptop, 2 suitcases, and a heart full of fire. But she never stopped wondering, who had sent that scholarship? Asterisk, 2 weeks later, Amara sat cross-legged on the floor of her small apartment, surrounded by unopened mail and half-eaten ramen noodles. Her phone buzzed beside her, another rejection from a part-time law internship. She sighed, closing her eyes to block out the disappointment. Asterisk, then her eyes caught a large, cream-colored envelope tucked under a pile of junk mail. Asterisk, from Howard University. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open. She read the first line, then again, slower this time. Asterisk, dear Miss Fields, we are thrilled to inform you. Her breath hitched. Accepted. Asterisk, she stood up so fast her knees buckled. A squeal escaped her lips before she remembered the neighbors and slapped a hand over her mouth. Then she read on. And due to your outstanding vision and demonstrated resilience, the Westwood Foundation is pleased to award you a full academic grant. This grant will cover all tuition, fees, and books for your 3-year course at Howard Law. Asterisk, she dropped to her knees, the letter clutched to her chest. Tears flooded her cheeks, and she laughed through sobs. She couldn't believe it. She hadn't even applied for a grant. She never expected help from anyone. Asterisk, she didn't know who the Westwood Foundation was. But she whispered into the air, thank you. Whoever you are, thank you. Asterisk, across the city, Alexander sat in his office, watching a live stream of a board presentation. But his mind was elsewhere. When his assistant entered and handed him a photo, a candid image of Amara holding the acceptance letter to her chest, crying, he couldn't hold back. He turned his face away, blinked, and covered his eyes, because that moment, the pride in her face, it reminded him of the sister he couldn't save. But this time, he had saved someone. The gala was in full swing, elegant gowns, clinking glasses, and the soft swell of jazz echoing through the grand ballroom of the Westin Hotel. Amara stood near the back, slightly uncomfortable in the silver dress that had been gifted anonymously. She had almost not come, until the invitation mentioned a special recognition from the Westwood Foundation. Asterisk, Alexander watched her from across the room. Asterisk, she still didn't know. Asterisk, but tonight, she would. Asterisk, the MC took the stage and tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this year's Community Impact Gala. Tonight, we honor a remarkable young woman. Someone who reminds us all that greatness isn't born, it's chosen and earned. Amara looked around, unsure, until she heard her name. Ms. Amara Fields, would you please come to the stage? Asterisk, stunned, she walked forward, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Whispers followed her, curious, confused, admiring. Alexander stepped up beside her. She doesn't know this, he began, but 4 months ago, I found a textbook on a janitor's cart, and it changed everything. The room quieted. I'd like to officially announce that Amara Fields has not only been accepted into Howard University's law school, but she is the recipient of a full 4-year scholarship sponsored by the Westwood Foundation. Amara gasped. Whispers turned to applause. Asterisk, her eyes welled up as she turned to him. It was you? Asterisk, he nodded, voice low. You reminded me of someone I lost, and I couldn't lose again. Asterisk her hands trembled as she hugged him, spontaneous, emotional, raw. He hugged her back, his eyes glassy. The crowd rose to their feet. But for Alexander and Amara, the noise faded. Asterisk it was just them now, two souls, connected by pain, hope, and the power of belief. Asterisk the applause still rang in Amara's ears long. After the gala ended, asterisk she stood on the balcony, cool night air brushing against her skin, the city lights glittering below. Behind her, laughter and music continued, but her heart was quiet, full. Asterisk Alexander joined her, 2 glasses in hand. He handed her one. Asterisk, no alcohol, he said with a smirk. Just sparkling cider. You're still someone's role model now. Asterisk Amara laughed softly, wiping away the last of her tears. You didn't have to do any of this. Asterisk. Yes, he replied, voice low. I did. Asterisk, she looked at him, the question finally forming. Who was she? Asterisk, his gaze drifted out to the skyline. My sister, Bianca. She dreamed like you did. Fought like you. But she didn't make it. I failed her. Didn't see her pain until it was too late. Amara put her hand gently on his. You didn't fail her. You saved me. Asterisk, he smiled, but it was a sad one. Maybe, but truth is you saved something in me too. Asterisk, they stood in silence for a moment, 2 lives from different worlds, finally connected. Asterisk, I want to start a fund, Amara said suddenly. For other students, janitors, busboys, interns, people no one sees. I want to name it after her, the Bianca Fund. Asterisk Alexander turned to her, stunned. She would have loved that. Asterisk he nodded, tears threatening once more. So would I. Months later, Amara walked into Howard Law as a student, not a cleaner. Her name was on the class roster. Asterisk, and Bianca's name was on the new scholarship plaque in the lobby. Asterisk, the girl who once mopped the floors, now walked across marble with her head high, purpose in her stride. Asterisk, and somewhere in the crowd, watching quietly, Alexander smiled. She didn't just change her story, she changed his too.